When you hear the word wine, what comes to mind? Maybe a glass of red shimmering under the light, a toast during dinner, or the vineyard stretching across hills in Italy or France. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why do we actually call it wine? It's one of those words that feels so natural, so timeless, that we almost forget it had to come from somewhere. So today we'll uncover the history behind why is it called wine, and takes us on a fascinating linguistic journey across ancient empires, trade routes, and the evolution of culture itself. So let's uncork the story of where the word came from and how this ancient drink came to be known simply as wine. Let's get into it, right here on History of Simple Things. Before we even get to the name, we need to go way back, to the origins of wine as a drink. Archaeologists have found evidence of wine production that dates back over 8,000 years, in what is now Georgia in the Caucasus region. Early humans discovered that grape juice, when left alone for a while, could ferment into something intoxicating, delicious, and worth celebrating. From there, winemaking spread to ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Persia. The drink wasn't just about enjoyment. It became a symbol of civilization, status, and even spirituality. Ancient tombs were found with jars of wine buried alongside kings and nobles, suggesting that wine wasn't just for the living. It was a companion for the afterlife. But as winemaking spread, so did the name it carried. And this is where our linguistic story begins. The English word wine comes from the Old English word win, which might sound familiar. It's spelled W-I-N, but pronounced like ween. That, in turn, came from the Proto-Germanic Vinum. Now, that Proto-Germanic word was borrowed from Latin, where the word for wine was vinum. And that Latin word is really the heart of it all. It's where most European words for wine come from. For example, Italian, vino. Spanish, vino. French, vin. Portuguese, vinho. Romanian, vin. They all trace back to vinum. Even in English, the W sound in wine came from that ancient V sound, because early Germanic tribes borrowed the word but changed its pronunciation to fit their own language. So already we can see that the word wine is a linguistic traveler. It started in Latin, spread through trade and conquest, and evolved as different cultures adopted and adapted it. Let's rewind to ancient times again. When the Phoenicians began sailing across the Mediterranean, they carried not just amphorae of wine, but the language and culture surrounding it. The Greeks later took wine culture to new heights, both literally and metaphorically. They called it oinos, which you can probably hear still sounds a lot like vinum. And from Greece it passed on to the Romans, who perfected both the wine trade and the Latin word vinum. As the Romans expanded their empire across Europe, they brought vineyards, winemaking, and the word itself wherever they went. When the Roman Empire reached Gaul, Britannia, and Hispania, modern-day France, England, and Spain, the word vinum spread with it. When the Roman Empire fell, the local dialects began to evolve into the languages we know today. Latin vinum turned into vin, vino, vigno, and eventually, through Germanic adaptation, wine. So every time you say wine, you're using a word that carries thousands of years of history, from Roman soldiers and Greek poets to ancient farmers crushing grapes underfoot. But language doesn't just describe, it reflects culture. And wine had such a deep impact on ancient societies that it shaped their languages, their rituals, even their myths. In Greek mythology, wine was the drink of the gods, associated with Dionysus, the god of pleasure, madness, and revelry. In Roman culture, Dionysus became Bacchus, and his festivals, called Bacchanalia, became wild celebrations filled with music, dance, and, of course, lots of wine. Even in the Bible, wine has deep symbolism. It represents both joy and sacrifice. Jesus famously turned water into wine, and wine became central to Christian rituals like communion. The word wine itself carried a sacred tone in many languages, a drink not just for thirst, but for spiritual meaning. Over time, as Europe developed into a patchwork of kingdoms and cultures, the word endured. From medieval monks who cultivated vineyards to kings who raised glasses in celebration, wine remained universal, a word everyone understood. There's also a poetic link between wine and vine. Both trace their roots to the same ancient idea of something growing, twisting, and producing fruit. The word vine came from the same Latin origin, vinia, meaning vineyard. So the plant and the drink have been linguistically connected for thousands of years. That's not a coincidence. It shows how our ancestors saw the world, as an intimate connection between nature, nourishment, and celebration. It's almost as if the words themselves grew together, like vines twining around each other through time. So now, when you pour yourself a glass of wine, think about this. You're not just holding a drink, you're holding history. The word you're saying, wine, is one of humanity's oldest surviving words. It's been whispered in temples, sung in poems, traded across seas, and toasted at countless tables. It's amazing how one short word can carry thousands of years of civilization within it. Every syllable of wine is a reminder of how language, like the drink itself, matures over time, growing deeper, richer, and more meaningful with age. So, why is it called wine? Because thousands of years ago, our ancestors found a way to name something truly special, something that brought people together, sparked celebration, and connected the earth to human spirit. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.